Hello, everyone, and welcome to Eat to Treat. I am Dr. Amaris Williams with Eat to Treat, and I have a PhD in nutrition. I'm an avid foodie and a cook. And as part of Eat to Treat, our goal is to end health disparities, and we do that by offering free cook along cooking demonstrations every first and third Saturday of the month, um, right here at 3 p.m. Eastern or noon Pacific. And today we're making poutine, which is a Canadian dish of French fries with cheese and gravy. Yes, I said French fries with cheese and gravy um, on a healthy cooking channel. Now, we are, to be fair, going to bake our fries, and we're also going to use vegetables that are typically not used to make fries, like beets and carrots. But then we're going to top it with cheese, low fat cheese, and dairy. And this is not to say that this dish is healthy. It's more healthy than the traditional poutine recipe. And the whole point of me really making this video was to show you guys how to make a really good gravy. And I just needed something to put the gravy on. Um, so here's a good gravy recipe for your Thanksgiving endeavor. So let's get started. All right, first thing is with any recipe that has a component where we have something alcoholic going into it, like this recipe, I said white wine, but I'm going to be using a Hefeweizen because I'm out of white wine. But go ahead and open up your wine or your beer or whatever you're using and take a little bit of a sip. All right, now, first things first, get your meat. Whichever type of meat you have, it's lamb or beef, or if it's a chicken, a whole chicken, go ahead and get that. This is already seasoned chuck roast. Um, they did not have any unseasoned chuck roast at the store that looked good, and by good I mean marbled without too much fat on it. So I got this seasoned chuck roast. If I had an unseasoned chuck roast, then I'll be putting some Zawash spice mix on it, which is a Somali spice mix that we used to make a beef stew. I want to say over a year ago, like probably about a year and a half ago. And it's been in my freezer ever since, and I just never use it. So this is a good time to use that. If you made that Somali beef stew, go ahead and use your Zawash spice mix and just liberally coat it on the meat. So just put it all over your meat. If you're using chicken, what I did with my chicken was I took a half a stick of butter, let it get to room temperature, and then put different spices in there. I put I use unsalted butter, so I put some flavored salt in it. I put an alder smoked salt and a habanero salt in there, some dry sage, some dried rosemary, some garlic powder, and some dried orange peel. And then I stuffed that under the skin of the chicken, and then put some on top of the skin of the chicken and baked it. But I'm gonna show you how to make the beef now. So now that you've got the beef seasoned, and now I'm gonna put some oil in a pan and turn on the heat. So I put about a tablespoon of oil in my pan, and I'm gonna cut it on and let that get hot for a little while, and then I'm going to put the beef in there. And the whole point of that is to get the beef to sear. We want to get brown on it because brown is color. I mean, yes, brown is color, but brown is also flavor. That's the word I was looking for. All right, so while we are browning our beef or waiting on our pot to get hot, I'm going to start cutting up this onion, and I'm just going to roughly slice it into big chunky slices, like maybe a half-inch slices. And I've got my fingers curled under so I don't cut them off or get fingernails in my food. And again, half-inch slices. And so that's ready to go. And my pan is probably doesn't look like it's quite hot yet, but I am going to take a sip of beer. Okay, Another thing is, if whatever cheese you're using, go ahead and get that out of the refrigerator. Let that start getting room temperature if it's not room temperature already. And if you're making chicken, you want your oven at 350, and if you're making beef, then you want your oven at 275. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and put my chuck in there. My oven is already hot, so I don't have to worry about that. Okay, so we got a nice sizzle going, and I'm just gonna let that sit there until it's brown on the bottom. Next thing is, I'm gonna get my 3 carrots, peel them and cut them in half, lengthwise, widthwise. I'm gonna cut them like this, whatever way that is. And those are gonna go in the pan with the onion. So the spoiler for this method is, we're gonna prepare our vegetables, brown them a little bit after we're done browning the meat, and then we're gonna put the meat on top of the vegetables, and then put the whole pot with a lid. So you need an oven-proof lid, one that doesn't have plastic on it. You put the whole pot with the lid in the oven and bake it for a few hours. If you're making chicken, you do not need to brown your chicken before you put it in the oven, and you don't need to brown your vegetables. Just peel your vegetables, rough chop your onion, and put the raw vegetables in a oven-proof pan. You don't need a lid for chicken. You do need a lid for baked beef. So put it in an oven-proof pan, and then put it in the oven at 350. Beef is 275 again. So hopefully your ovens are preheating now. Again, that's beef 275, chicken 350. So those are ready. I've got 3 stalks of celery here that I've already rinsed. And so I'm just going to cut them into the same length pieces as my carrots. Cut off the white part at the root. And now those are ready to go. So all my vegetables are ready to go. And if I were cooking chicken, I would just put them in like this, like raw, in the pan, and then put the chicken on top of that with the butter stuffed under the skin. Alright. Let's see if this is brown on the bottom. It's sticking, so it's not quite brown yet. Alright. So you want to brown your meat on all sides. I already told you the cheese is at room temperature. We're coming to room temperature. We've removed it from the refrigerator. These are the vegetables that go in the pot with the meat, right? So I'm going to go ahead and peel these other 2 carrots, and these are going to go in the oven with my french fries. And they are going to be in the bowl with the fries and the gravy and the cheese, and they're going to be delicious. One thing that you should keep in mind, though, if you do want to use carrots and beets instead of potatoes, is that carrots and beets are not going to get crispy and crunchy. No matter how long you bake them, they will be soft until they burn. The crispiest carrots is when they're raw, as far as I know. Maybe there's a chef out there that knows how to make crispy cooked carrots, but I am not that chef. So for the fries, the carrot fries, what I'll do is get my carrots, cut the top and the tail off, and then cut them in half, widthwise and lengthwise, so whichever way that means for you. And the thicker pieces I'm going to cut twice to make quarters, and then the thinner pieces I'll just cut in half. And this one I'm not going to cut it all, it's too thin. But this one I'll cut in half. And then these can go in the oven with the french fries when we're ready to bake them. But I wouldn't bake the fries until after the meat is done. So your oven will be hot from cooking the meat, and then turn up the heat, because usually fries require higher temperature. So your meat, if you're cooking chicken, is at 350, and the beef is at 275, and fries are generally at 425. So you're gonna have to turn up the oven, and then you can put your vegetables in there, whether that be sweet potatoes, white potatoes, carrots, and or beets. And so what I'm doing right now is I'm peeling a beet. This is a beet. I don't know if you can see it because I'm holding it close to my body, but peeling a beet. And I'm just going to cut it into strips the same way I cut the carrot. And then I'm going to throw that in the oven with the potatoes. But first, let me see if this is brown. That's good. I got one more side to brown, and then I'm ready to put the vegetables in there. So I'm just going to cut the root and the greens end off of the beet, and then cut it in half so I have a flat surface, and then make planks. Turn it on its side, turn the planks on their side, and then cut strips. They're too small. Okay. So this is what I'm going for here. A little thick cut piece of beet, and I'll put those with my carrots. Same thing with the other half of the beet. Okay, so that's ready to go. Have some beer. And now I think the beef is done. Not done, but seared, which is what we want. Go ahead and grab that out. You're going to have brown stuff stuck on the bottom of your pan, which is fine. We're going to get that up with the beer or the wine, whatever you choose. But now I'm going to go ahead and throw my veggies in there and let them brown. Because like I said, color is flavor. And if you need more oil, go ahead and put another tablespoon of olive oil in there. But I've got enough fat from my beef that I don't need to do that. Alright. And really about halfway done with all the prep here. The rest is put it in the oven, let the oven do the work. And then when we pull it out, I'll show you how to make gravy. I've made another roast, and I'll show you how to make the gravy out of the drippings that are left after you're done cooking it. One good trick to get your roast to cook quicker, because it's an hours-long process. One trick to let your roast cook quicker is to pull it out of the fridge and let it come to room temperature. So this started at room temperature. And I forgot to say this earlier, when you're seasoning your roast, if you bought an already seasoned roast, read the instructions, the ingredients, and if it comes with salt in it, like mine, salt was the third ingredient besides beef and garlic. So you don't need to add more salt if your beef is already salted. But if you're making the Zawash flavored beef, then add some salt if you want to that, because the Zawash spice blend is made without salt. Okay, so my vegetables starting to get a little bit brown spots on them. Not a lot. But I'm going to go ahead and put my beer in there and start deglazing the pan. So deglaze just means get the fond, the brown bits off the bottom, and dissolve them back into solution. That way the flavor is part of the meal and not stuck to the pan. And if by now you don't have a half a cup of beer left, you might get another, or just use what you have. Alright. So put your alcohol in there, whether it be wine or beer, and then scrape the bottom of the pan with your utensil and get that flavor up. Could probably put a little bit more beer in here, but I'd rather drink it. Alright, so now that we've got the flavor up, it'll keep dissolving a little bit more as it's in the oven. I'm going to put my beef back in on top of the vegetables. I'm going to turn the heat off. Then I'm going to put the top on, and then I can put it directly in the oven just like that, because my top, as you can see, is metal and glass. It's oven safe. I don't have any plastic on it, so I don't have to worry about it. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in the oven, and I'll get what I've already made. Okay, sorry about that. I got myself here a chicken that I've roasted. I just pulled it out right before this demo started, and it's been resting for 15 minutes or so. Yeah, 18 minutes. So it's ready to go. I'm going to pull the meat out of the pot. So whether you made beef or chicken, go ahead and pull the meat, whatever it is, out of the pot, leaving the vegetables and the drippings behind. And my chicken is full of drippings. It's in the cavity of the chicken. So I'm just going to have to tilt it to drain it out. Then go ahead and grab it out of there. You're looking for a temperature of 165 degrees next to the bone, but not touching the bone when you cook your chicken. The beef, you're looking for 145 degrees. Excuse me. Alright, so as you can see, there's plenty of liquid in this pan, along with my celery, my onions, and my carrots. And what I'm going to do is add some flour. Now, because I roasted meat in here, even though I didn't add any oil to the pan before I roasted it, because with the chicken I didn't cook my vegetables first and I didn't sear the chicken first, so there was no oil added to this at all. But you can still see, I don't know if you can see, but there's a layer of fat on top of the liquid that's in there, and that's the fat from the chicken. That is saturated fat. All fat that comes from animal products is saturated, but it's not that much of it. So I'm just going to leave it in there, and I'm going to use the sieve that I have and get my couple tablespoons of flour, and then just sieve it over the liquid that's in there, and that will reduce the amount of lumps. Just stir that in. And you can do this one of two ways. You can pull the vegetables out and then make the gravy with the liquid, or you can leave the vegetables in and make the gravy. But either way, after you're done, you're still going to have to sieve what's in the pan. You're going to have to put the gravy through a sieve to make sure you get a good consistency and there's no lumps. So I'm just going to remove all the solids at one time. Leave the carrots and the veggies and everything in there, and then worry about that later when I put the gravy through the sieve. And part of the reason why I do that is because I just want to sieve it once, and then the other part of the reason is because there's still liquid in these carrots and onions and celery that can come out when I make the gravy. So just getting the flour in there. And the reason why I was talking about fat at the beginning is because we're making a roux. And a roux is just flour and fat. So I'm not adding any fat to this, even though I'm making a roux, because there's already fat in it. So, okay, so now we got our flour in there. And I'm going to turn on the heat. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to say, once you pull the meat out, put your fries in there, in the oven. Because as you're making the gravy, the fries can be cooking. It usually takes about 15 to 18 minutes, depending on what type of fries you are making. I already have my fries in the oven. That's what I was doing back there. That took me so long to come back. And then by the time your gravy is ready, your fries will also be ready. So, and actually while this is heating up and starting to simmer, I'm going to go get the fries. I'll be right back. Okay, so this is what I pulled out of the oven. We've got some sweet potatoes and some white potato fries. The beets and the carrots, I will make those off camera. But let's finish this gravy and then I'll show you how to plate it up. It's really simple. You just put the fries in a bowl, then put some cheese on top, and then put the gravy on top of that. Now, depending on how many people you're serving or how much gravy you want, you might add some broth to this. I've got some no salt added chicken broth. Oops. And as this cooks, it's going to thicken. So you can use the broth to increase the volume of gravy that you get. You can also use it to adjust the consistency. If it gets too thick as you cook it, then just add a little bit of broth. to thin it out. And if you need a lot of quantity of gravy, like if you're serving a lot of people, then go ahead and add more flour than just 2 tablespoons and add more broth. And then the last step is to pour it. Well, the next step is to taste it and adjust the seasonings as necessary. Add some salt, some white pepper. If you're using a chicken-based gravy like this one, I would use white pepper. If you're using a beef-based gravy or an other red meat-based gravy, I would use black pepper. This is going to be a chicken gravy, so white pepper probably better. And then go ahead and put it through a sieve. If I could just keep this in the pan, that would be great. All right. So I think this is a good consistency, and this is more than I need. So I'm not going to add any more flour or any more broth. I think we're good to go. I'm going to go ahead and turn the heat off. And then put a clean spot here. And I'm just going to pour it through my sieve into a bowl. Okay. And you can adjust the seasonings before or after you take it off the heat. But don't forget to adjust the seasonings. So this is going to be probably heavy on the rosemary flavor and the sage, because that's what I season the chicken with. Okay. Alrighty. So this is our finished product. This is some gravy. Not too thin, not too thick. And I'm going to go ahead and plate up some fries. Just still hot. Okay. And these could have been in the oven a little longer. These could have been crispier, but they're pretty good. So, a little bit of white potato, a little bit of sweet potato. And then I'm going to get some of my room temperature cheese so it doesn't cool down my potatoes. Sprinkle some on top. And this is a low moisture part skim mozzarella. And the part skim means it's made with part skim milk, which means there's less fat in it. And then I'm going to put some gravy on top. And this is my less than exciting version of poutine. It doesn't look great, but it does taste pretty good. I have made this before. I think poutine is one of those foods that doesn't really sound good, doesn't look good, but when you taste it, it's actually much better than you expect it to be. And then I'm also going to eat it with my chicken. The beef is not going to be ready for another couple hours, so I'll have to wait on that. But let me change the view. So that's it for this demo. we're ready to go. That's it. So I got beer, I got french fries, I got cheese, I got gravy, I got chicken, I got beef coming, and I'm happy. Happy camper. Happy camper. All right. Thanks for joining. I hope your poutine comes out great, or that your Thanksgiving gravy comes out great. You don't have to make the french fries if you don't want to. Definitely don't have to make them at all. And then hit the subscribe and the bell icon to be notified of the next demonstration. And I will see you next time. All right? Okay. Bye.